ultimately, every member of the RG will make their own decision.
Sure.
But I think the bulk of us have been attracted to support Liz. We trust her on Europe. I know that she voted Remain. We all know that. But if you look at the development of the Northern Ireland Protocol bill, there was a big row in government. She and Suella Braverman kept trying to toughen the bill up. Rishi Sunak and others kept trying to water it down. So that, if you like, was Liz's bona fides for us, and also the fact she negotiated over 70 trade deals. She even set the groundwork for these new deals with Australia and New Zealand that Anne-Marie Trevelyan is now bringing very successfully to fruition. So, do I trust Liz Truss on Europe? Yes. And even if you won't take it from me, if Bill Cash, John Redwood, Ian Duncan Smith, David Jones and Steve Baker trust her on Europe, then that's good enough for me, and I think for the bulk of my colleagues in the ERG.
You know her pretty well. What are her instincts, Mark, across other areas of public policy? We also obviously know a lot about her foreign policy views and ideas because she's Foreign Secretary. But beyond that, where else do you think she may make her mark? And who could be her Chancellor?
Well, if she becomes Prime Minister, that's well above my pay grade. but what I would say is that I think that, Liz believes the democratically elected politician should run the country, not the blob, right? And I haven't come here to do lots of knocking copy on Rishi, but he is a bit of a prisoner of the Treasury mandarins, and we see all of that in the tax debate, to be honest. By the way, he's done this big flip-flop about VAT.
It's damaged him, really, isn't it?
I think because he spent 3 weeks lecturing us all on fiscal probity and all the rest of it, to now suddenly advocate a $4 billion tax cut looks a little bit, quirky. And, of course, that wouldn't apply in Northern Ireland under the Northern Ireland Protocol. It's Liz's bill. She would get rid of that difference so that Northern Ireland would be treated the rest. It was Rishi and the Treasury mandarins who wanted to keep the difference. So I put it this way, I believe that the Prime Minister should give the civil servants the orders and not the other way around. And if Liz Truss is giving the orders, we all know who's in charge. I think if it's Rishi, there'd be a question about, is he really giving the orders or the Treasury mandarins? I mean, no disrespect, that's partly based on track record.
And what else? What other aspects of policy do you think are of interest to her? For instance, we were speaking earlier in the show about the real bad energy crisis that we're going to see this autumn, possibly going into January. Bills not just £3,000 a year, but even £4,000 a year, some industry insiders are now saying.
Well, that's, for instance, why Liz has said that she would temporarily suspend the green levies on people's energy bills. It's not that she's not committed to 2050. She is. I mean, it's in law. But I think given the cost of living crisis, it's a sensible decision to temporarily suspend those green levies to actually, relieve some of the financial pressure on, hard-working families that your package earlier, was so clearly making apparent. And look, her instincts are to be a tax cutter. I mean, there's a few people around Rishi who've never heard of the Laffer curve, and if they have, they probably think it's...
The idea that if you lower a tax rate, you can actually get more revenue because you get more growth.
Yeah, I think some of his supporters think that's a corner at Brands Hatch. And she's an instinctive tax cutter, and that goes through. And I think we can afford to do it her way, because her argument is, and I have sympathy with this, is, we need to grow our way out of the pandemic. You can't tax your way out, right? And the IMF is saying at the moment that we've got such a tax burden that next year we'd be the slowest growing major economy in the Western world. We can't afford that. We've got to get growth. We've got to give it a boost, and that means targeted tax cuts. For instance, she wants to keep corporation tax at 19%. Rishi's policy is to increase it to 25%. What does that
was in his budget, isn't it? In 2023.
Yeah, and well, he's not flip-flopped on that one yet, but we've got a few weeks to go. And what that would mean is, A, you reduce the profits of British companies that makes it more difficult for them to invest and to grow jobs. And secondly, also very importantly, it's a disincentive to international companies who can invest pretty much anywhere on earth to invest in the UK if they're going to see 6% more of their revenue immediately go in tax to the Treasury. So my worry is that by sticking to sort of Treasury orthodoxy, we will delay growth. We could even push the economy into recession. Liz wants targeted tax cuts to really give, the economy a rocket boost growth. And then, as the Laffer curve says, you get more tax revenue at the end of the day anyway. So I'm absolutely convinced that must be the right way to go. And I think even Rishi, to be fair, is hesitating, hence this sort of flip-flop on VAT.